Hey guys, it's Julia. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a video that I promised you guys that I was going to do, and I'm super excited about this one. As you guys could probably tell by the title of this video, today is going to be my top 12 favorite eyeshadow formulas as of right now. I was going to try and make it 10, but I just couldn't. There were too many that I wanted to pick from, and even in this video, I do have to exclude like a few eyeshadow formulas I do think are really good. So I'm not wearing a super bold eyeshadow look today. I actually did film this look, so this, the tutorial / get ready with me for this look should be going up directly after this video, I think. But it's a pretty basic look, but I'm going to be flashing on screen a bunch of looks I've done with each eyeshadow palette that I show you guys, and each eyeshadow formula, so you guys can kind of see what these are able to do. So I apologize for not having a nice like actual eyeshadow look going on today. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope you get some good recommendations of some really bomb eyeshadow formulas. And without further ado, let's get right into it. Before I get into this, I do want to say that these aren't in any particular order. So I'm not like listing each eyeshadow formula in order of my favorite, going from most favorite to least favorite. These are all just like top 12 favorites. I need to be stopped. So the first brand / formula that I want to mention is NABLA Cosmetics. This is one of my new favorites. I've recently discovered them. So I started trying out NABLA in I think July of this year. I reviewed the NABLA DREAMY eyeshadow palette and the Soul Blooming. I do have a get ready with me using this palette on my channel, so you can see how it performs in real time. But I love both of these palettes, and I gave them both very positive reviews. Beyond the absolutely beautiful packaging, I think they make one of the best formulas. I haven't tried any of their single shadows yet, just because I haven't done a order from Beauty Bay recently, but I'd love to try some of their singles. I think the matte shadows in particular are one of the best formulas ever. These are extremely like soft and buttery. I kind of compare everything to the Anastasia Beverly Hills formula, which I feel like is very soft, buttery, but also very powdery. These are just like those, very soft and creamy, but don't have that powderiness to them. So these I feel like are a lot less messy, but still have that same amount of pigmentation to them, and they're very easy to blend out. The shimmer formula is also really pretty. They're very nice and pearlized. They're not super foiled like the Anastasia ones, but they do have a lot of reflectiveness to them, and they don't crease through the day. So I think this is a really great all-around formula. Within the Soul Blooming palette, they do have one shade here called Honey Drip, which is a different formula. It's a bit of a chunkier duochrome pearlescent shade, and I think it's really pretty. It can be a little bit harder to work with, so I definitely recommend using all the shimmers in here with a wet flat shader brush. That's the best way I've found to apply them, and then going over with your finger can add an extra layer of reflectiveness to them. I would compare NABLA to the way people feel about Natasha Denona. I think this is one of the best formulas I've ever tried. It is a bit harder to get your hands on if you are in the US, because it is a European brand. However, I think it's well worth it. These palettes are about $40-something USD. They're two of my favorite palettes in my collection. So these are definitely a new favorite formula, and I think NABLA has one of the best eyeshadows I've ever tried in my life. Definitely next, I wanted to mention the new MORPHE formula. So MORPHE has a bunch of eyeshadows that they've released over time. They have the original like 35O, 35B, those types of just like standard palettes, the private labeled ones. And then they started coming out with the new formula around the time that they rebranded. The new formula is what I'm talking about today. I think this is a really good formula, particularly what's in the Jaclyn Hill palette and the 39A palette. As I've said, I am going to be reviewing the James Charles palette and doing like a full breakdown / review of that one. And I also do want to clarify that I'm not referring to the Vault collection in this particular video. I think the shadows in there are not as good as what's in these two palettes, but the Jaclyn Hill palette is my favorite in my collection just because of its versatility. I feel like the shades in here are a really good array of basically everything I need. I feel like everything has a place in the palette, and it's a color story that makes sense. So this is what I take traveling with me. The mattes I do think are the strong suit. They're very easy to blend out, and they're very pigmented. I feel like they layer very well as well. Some shadows where you start layering on 3 or 4 shades and it just kind of starts to look muddy. This I feel like doesn't do that. Same thing goes for the 39A. I feel like the mattes in here also play very well with each other and just layer extremely well, and that's something that I really like going for, especially in a more colorful formula. I do colorful eye looks often, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But a big thing when doing really colorful eye looks is being able to build up those colors and get them to be very bright and pigmented on the eyes, and I feel like these do a really good job of doing that. Again, I'm kind of less impressed when the shimmer formula is really good in an eyeshadow palette, because it's not that hard to formulate a good shimmer shade. I mean, some brands really do mess it up. I think these are probably the best shadows you can get for the price, and just overall, the 39A and the Jaclyn Hill palette are what I would recommend to people who are wanting to try out Morphe shadows for the first time. I think these are two of the best palettes that they offer. A formula that's kind of new to my list that really came out of nowhere for me is the Dose of Colors formula. So I just reviewed the Desi and Katie Friendcation palette on my channel, so there is a full review of this one in the new makeup releases, favorites and fails for October. I was super excited for this palette when I saw the color scheme in here because I really wanted to try out the shimmer formula. They were saying that it was going to be very similar to the Block Party eyeshadows, those $20 stupidly expensive singles that I was not willing to spend my money on. So I figured it would be really good to try it in palette form because you're getting 1, 2, 3, 4 of those Block Party shimmer formulas in there, as well as 1 standard shimmer and then 5 mattes as well. And this is one of those shimmer formulas that I feel like is super special. These are infused with kind of like a micro glitter to them, so they just look wet on the eyes, which is beautiful. It's a very hard effect to create with some shimmer shadows like these. These also layer very well with each other, so you can kind of shift how the shimmer looks depending on what you put on top of it or what you put underneath it. And yeah, just in general, these 4 like Block Party shimmer shades are beautiful. But the mattes, I was not expecting to be this good. They're so easy to blend out. They're just one of the most buttery and smooth matte formulas I've tried in a long time. And again, like I said, I get really impressed with a good matte formula and not particularly shimmer shades. So while the shimmers in here just kind of blew everything out of the water, the mattes I was so pleasantly surprised with. So this quickly came onto my list of top 10 favorite formulas. I definitely want to try out more palettes from them. I haven't tried any of their those like 5-pan palettes. I don't know what they're called, but like the 5-pan palette that they come out with. I haven't tried any of those. I think I might buy the Snow Angels one for holiday, but if I do get that one, I will definitely share a review with you guys. But right now, I'm really enjoying the Desi Katy Friendcation palette. I figure now's as good a time as any to get rid of the Anastasia palettes to talk about. I have more palettes from Anastasia Beverly Hills in my collection than I have from any other brand, unless you count the Vault collection, which I just count as 1 large palette rather than 4 small palettes. So I have 5 palettes from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I'm planning on buying more from them. I'm not getting the sultry palette.
I just think it's a low-key ugly color scheme, sorry, haha.
But Anastasia is the formula that I compare literally everything to, and I think it's one of the best formulas on the market. So they do have 2 different formulas. They have the old formula, which was in the Master Palette by Mario. This was the last palette that they made that was hand pressed, and then they started moving to machine pressed with the Modern Renaissance. So the old formula in the Master Palette by Mario is so good. The mattes in here are so soft and very creamy, but unlike the modern Anastasia formula, they don't have like a ton of fallout or they don't have a ton of kick up, so they're not super powdery. And then the shimmers in here are almost like a cream texture. They're super soft to the touch and they just glide onto the eyes. These are beautiful. It's a really great formula, and you can't really get anything like this anymore in palette form. I would say the closest you could get in this old formula would be the single shadows that they offer. However, I do really enjoy the like current Anastasia formula as well. These are machine pressed, so they're a lot less like soft and buttery as the old formula, but they're still extremely soft and very powdery as well. So the Modern Renaissance is a classic in my collection. This has 2 of the 3 formulas I want to talk about. So the mattes in here, very powdery, very powdery, but also very blendable. I feel like they do have a lot of powder cake up to them, but that helps them blend a lot better, whereas some shadows, they have a lot of powder to them, but they just kind of diffuse away. These ones have pigment to them, so they stick on the eyes, and they really create this beautiful wash of color. These are definitely very blendable, but I wouldn't say that these are good for beginners. I think you'd have a hard time doing stuff with these ones because they do have a lot of softness to them, and they're so easy to blend that you can kind of get carried away with them, I guess. The shimmer shadows in here are kind of one of Anastasia's 2 shimmer formulas, so she either makes really foiled, very high impact shimmers or softer ones like these. The softer shimmers are really pretty, just very buttery and creamy, and they last very well on the eyes. Soft Glam is a good example of like 2 different styles of the shimmer shadows. So you have the classic mattes, you have the softer shimmers down here, and then you have 2 of the more like super foiled and glittery shimmers. I feel like the mattes, again, are definitely the strong suit in these palettes, but Soft Glam is my personal favorite. This is where I would recommend starting off if you're wanting to buy one Anastasia palette. Modern Renaissance is my second favorite. I also have the Norvina palette. This one I do have a full review of on my channel. I have last year's Prism palette, which I rarely reach for just because the color scheme is a little bit topsy-turvy, but really pretty. This one does have more foiled, glittery shimmer shadows rather than the softer ones I was talking about, but still very good matte formula and just very consistent. Then Subculture, which is kind of the exception. This one is definitely not the same formula as the other ones, but I still really enjoy this one as a pressed pigment palette, and the shimmer shadows in here are also really good. So Anastasia's formula is another favorite. I love all their palettes. I would definitely recommend starting off with Soft Glam or Modern Renaissance depending on what you want in terms of colors and finishes. Next up, I want to mention JUVIA'S Place. Again, this is kind of new to my list since the last time I did this video, but this is definitely on my top 10. I have 3 of their palettes to show you guys: the Masquerade Mini, I have the Saharan 2, and the Festival palette. I don't have the Zulu palette with me in this video because that one I feel like is a different formula from these ones, and I wanted to talk about these ones.
Oh shit.
I've done a full review of JUVIA'S Place shadows on my channel, so you can go ahead and watch that video if you want even more in-depth thoughts on this one. The matte formula from JUVIA'S is really good. Again, kind of like the Morphe formula, they layer very well, so these are really good for creating very colorful eye looks. They just build on top of each other and they don't like blend away into one big color. They kind of, you see the distinction, you see how many colors you use on the eyes. So if you really like mattes, I would definitely recommend going for either the Festival palette or the Masquerade Mini. This one does have some more neutrals in here, so you can kind of play around with different color schemes. But the shimmers are also a really good formula and probably one of my favorite shimmer shadows in my collection. Saharan 2 has a really good example of some really amazing shimmers in here. Like, these are insanely foiled. I don't know if you can even see that, but these are absolutely insane in terms of color payoff. They're just intense, very foiled, very pearlized shimmer shades, and they don't take a lot of effort to get onto the eyes, so I feel like they have a good amount of staying power to them, but they're also just easy to get the effect that you were going for. So even though they are an indie brand, they are available in Ulta as well. So these are relatively easy to get to. I believe they do have displays in stores, so you can go ahead and like swatch, play with them, but overall, so good. And then right along with JUVIA'S Place in terms of my favorite like colorful eyeshadow formulas would be SUGARPILL. I love my SUGARPILL Pro eyeshadows. I use them very often, so a lot of the time when you see me on my Instagram in like bright colors, I usually dipped in here for at least one of the shades I used. SUGARPILL shadows are definitely an investment. They're, I think, $10 to $12 per pan, so this whole palette cost me $120, which was slightly stupid. I don't regret it one bit. I think these are really good shadows, and for me, because I do colorful looks and that's part of my job here on like YouTube and Instagram, it's worth it for me. So definitely if you do really like colorful eyeshadows, I would say invest in a SUGARPILL palette. I don't really super love the shimmers. I do have one shimmer shade, which is like a pink kind of like rosy toned peachy shade. It's pretty, it's not anything special, and I wouldn't say it was worth the like $10 that I spent on the pan, but the mattes in here, whoa, baby. The mattes in here swatch like absolute ass. They are dry, kind of patchy when you swatch them, but swatches rarely ever tell the full story, I feel like, except for like shimmer shadows. And these mattes, when you use them with a brush on the eyes, they show up so bright and crazy and just beautiful. So these have some of the most intense color payoff of any shadows I've used. I've talked about Butter Cupcake endlessly on my channel. I also really love Flame Point if you're going for a really nice good orange. Poison Plum is a really awesome purple as well, just one of the best purple shadows I have in my collection. And then Home Sweet Home is also a very special shade. You don't really see a lot of like very light periwinkle shades like this one. And then Taco, best matte white in my life. So if you ask me what my favorite colorful eyeshadow formula is, I'd probably say SUGARPILL or Morphe. Morphe is a lot more affordable, but these are just my ride or die, consistently awesome colorful eyeshadow formula. So if you are in the mood to like treat yourself or invest in some really good colorful shadows, this is the way to go. And while we're talking about investment shadows, Pat McGrath. First of all, I want to say I'm very happy to see Pat McGrath and amazing artists like her getting a lot of recognition lately. I feel like especially during this summer and fall, her brand was getting a lot more recognition than it was previously, and people were really like starting to lust over her eyeshadows, which made me very happy because she is one of the most amazing, legendary, iconic,
talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique, completely not ever been done before,
talented people and artists ever. So she is like one of my major inspirations in terms of makeup. This is one of her Mothership palettes, which I did decide to invest in, I want to say like about a year ago. I got this in, I think, December of last year. First of all, beautiful color scheme, and I feel stupid and terrible whenever I mention how much this one costs, so I don't. I bought this one because I got all A's on my finals and I was like, hell yeah, let's do this, let's get myself an expensive gift. Pat McGrath, I would say, is probably the best eyeshadow formula I've ever tried in my life. Mattes are definitely very nice. They're one of the easiest to blend formulas, so you can go in with the smallest amount and just diffuse it out to where you can take one like brown shade like this, you can blend it out and make it very light, or you can keep it very concentrated and have a dark brown shade. So I can kind of look like I'm wearing 4 different eyeshadow shades using one color. So the mattes are really good. The shimmers are also very nice, but what I want to talk about are the metallic pigments. Whew. And I've done a video using these two shades, the gold pigment and the green black pigment on my eyes. Just you can see how like reflective and crazy they are when I tilt the palette, but they're intense. They're basically like liquid metal, so you activate them with water. You just kind of use your finger or a brush. I definitely recommend using a finger with these ones, but you just use a wet finger, you dip your finger in there, you just swipe it across the eye, and it literally just like looks like liquid metal, like you melted down gold and you put it on your eye. It's crazy. I do have a few of their single pigments as well, so I have the gold shade, I have the white gold, which is very white gold. Wow. And then I have the copper shade. So the mattes are good, the shimmers are good, but the metallic pigments are what makes this so special, and that's why I definitely put this in my top 10 favorites. It's just so good. I've been hunting for dupes for this kind of formula for such a long time, and I haven't found anything remotely in the same ballpark. All right, going from the most expensive formula to the most inexpensive formula in this video, I want to talk about ColourPop. So ColourPop has been just like blowing it out of the water recently. A lot of their releases spring this year or like the end of last year, I was just like, really? They were putting out so many things, they were doing so many new palettes, and I just kind of got tired of it. But I feel like they kind of slowed down during like the end of summer, and they started releasing things, especially for fall, that I was just like, wow. Wow. I really love their eyeshadow palettes, and I feel like they're pretty consistent in terms of quality, but there are two palettes from them that I feel like are even better than the regular formula that they offer. So those are the Good Sport palette and the Dream Street palette from Kathleen Lights. So this one came out around holidays of last year, and this is a step above the normal ColourPop formula that's in their singles and their other palettes. I feel like the mattes in here are slightly more buttery, and bright shades like these ones, like Spark and Water Bearer, the teal, they're bright, but they're not hard to work with at all, and I feel like they have a very nice solid punch of pigmentation. So this one was a really good palette. This was a banger for a long time. And then they came out with Good Sport. I've been raving about this like nonstop. I think in the past like 5 videos I filmed, I mentioned this one. It's so good. They're slightly more powdery than this formula, but they're more pigmented, and just they layer very easily, so you're able to create very pigmented layered eye looks. But they blend well, they hold pigmentation, they're so intensely pigmented. Literally so pigmented. But then the shimmers in here, excuse me, this is a palette that I would pay like $40 for. I can't believe this is $16. So ColourPop is one of my favorite affordable formulas. I would definitely say that these are some of the best palettes you can get for the price. And yeah, these are bangers. Go get them. Next, I want to talk about Huda Beauty. So I have the Desert Dust palette with me. I am planning on reviewing the nude palette, which should be coming tomorrow, I think, in the mail. So I just ordered that one. I am doing a full review video, so keep in mind that this review is not mentioning that one. But the Desert Dust palette is one of my favorites. I have tried some of their Obsessions palettes, but I've had to return 2 of them, because I am allergic to the red shadows for some reason in the Obsessions palettes, but not this one. I have not gotten around to trying any of their gemstone Obsessions palettes. I am planning on getting, I think, either the green one or the blue one, and then, or maybe both. Knowing me, it's probably both.
Stop it. Get some help.
And I also haven't tried the Rose Gold Original or Remastered, so just keep that in mind when I'm referring to Huda shadows. The mattes. Very dry, and that doesn't sound nice, but they're a very dry texture, not creamy like the Anastasia ones, not like super soft, so they're a bit more hardly pressed. So they feel a bit chalkier to the touch, which sounds absolutely unappealing and horrible, but they're really easy to blend for some reason. But I'm also very impressed with the shimmers in here. Again, I feel like this is one of the few shimmer formulas that's like not just your standard, like, oh yeah, it's good. These are very special to me. I've said before, if they came out with a full palette of shimmer shades, I would actually consider buying it. Like, I hate full shimmer palettes, but these are really good. The standard shimmers in here are really pretty. Probably the closest in terms of like the liquid metal effect that the Pat McGrath ones give. This is the closest thing I could find to give that same effect. And it's not much less expensive. This is $65, and they're smaller pans, but they're still really good. Huda is also known for throwing in some like textured, like kind of glittery shadows into her palettes. So you have Twilight, Retrograde, and Cosmo in here. Cosmo is a pressed glitter, which is annoying and it kind of breaks a lot, but it's really pretty on the eyes. Twilight is one of the most special shades I have in my collection. I talked about this one in a video called My Favorite Eyeshadow Shades in My Collection, and I talked about this shade specifically. But yeah, I think she did something really special with this palette. I really hope her nudes palette kind of stacks up to this one, because this is one of my favorites in my collection, and definitely I would say it's in my top 5 favorite palettes in my entire collection. Again, I can't really attest to the quality in all her palettes because I haven't tried all her palettes, but this is awesome. My next favorite formula, kind of like the Dose of Colors formula, just came out of nowhere for me, but this is the Ciate Glitter Storm palette. I never really thought of their brand as something that I would go for eyeshadows. I normally don't really think about them that often. I really do like a lot of their products that they offer. I think their bronzer is awesome, but I don't know, I never really thought of them as an eyeshadow brand. So they came out with this one for holidays. I actually used this one in the Get Ready With Me that I filmed this morning to create this look. So this is what I'm wearing on my eyes right now. I didn't expect them to be this good. This is an awesome formula. So the mattes in here, I don't understand why more people don't talk about Ciate shadows, but I feel like the mattes are very, very blendable. Again, soft, buttery, kind of powdery like the Anastasia ones, but not quite as like wet to the touch. They're a bit drier. They're just very easy to blend out, very easy to diffuse, and just nice and soft. So I'm not sure how I would feel about more colorful shadows that they come out with, but I think this is a really great formula for neutrals. And then the 3 kind of like pressed glittery shimmer shades up here. Insane. You're able to use them as you would any other shimmer shadow. They just go on with a brush. You don't have to like put down glitter glue or anything, but they're so insanely glittery. These are just like a special formula again. And the outer packaging, added bonus. So this makes me definitely want to try more from Ciate in terms of eyeshadows. I think I'm gonna buy the Chloe Morello Part 2 collaboration palette that they did, because that one has some colorful shadows in there, and I love the formula in this one, so I definitely want to see how the formula plays with like more colorful shades. But in terms of like neutrals, this is an awesome palette and really, really good formula. I also wanted to mention 2 other bangers for the fall season. So Ace Beauté. I just reviewed Classical Paradise in the October favorites video, and then in the September video, I reviewed the Paradise Fallen. So I really love both these palettes. I did think that Paradise Fallen was going to be my personal favorite just because it's purple, but Classical Paradise really stole my heart. I think the color scheme in here is just so pretty. Very similar to the ColourPop Good Sport palette though, so definitely if you're wanting a less expensive one, go for this. The shimmers are fine. They're not the best formula ever, and I don't think that they're like anywhere near the caliber of like the JUVIA'S Place shimmers or the Huda Beauty ones, but they're okay. The reason I'm including these ones is because the mattes. These mattes blew me away. I honestly was not expecting anything like super transcendent or anything, but these, again, they layer very easily, so it's easy to create very colorful looks. They were able to pull off some of the hardest colors to ever formulate, like olive greens, very hard to formulate. Reds, also very hard to formulate. Yellow. How do they do that? And then not to mention purples. Purples are notoriously very difficult to formulate, and the mattes are so consistent in terms of every single color that they did. I feel like every single shade that is a matte formula, you'd swatch it and they would perform the exact same way. It is so hard to get consistency like this across different colors, and they did it. They did that. Things they did, that. Finally, I wanted to finish off the video with a palette that I haven't talked about in a long time on my channel, but this is the Colored Rain Queen of Hearts palette. This one was released a long time ago, so it's not anything super new, and that's why I kind of feel like I haven't talked about it in a long time, but it's a very, very good palette. And this is what I would recommend as a starting point to anybody who wants to try out Colored Rain. I think their matte formula is one of the best I've tried ever. They do have single shadows, which I think would be an awesome starting point because I think their matte formula is awesome. The shimmers are okay. Not anything super special. Again, I feel like the super foiled shades like Royal Highness and Your Majesty, these are really good, but the rest of the shimmers are just shimmers. But the matte shadows in here are probably the easiest formula to blend that I've ever found. So this is awesome if you're a beginner or if you're very advanced in your makeup skills. And this is an awesome indie brand that I definitely think you should watch out for. I think they're doing amazing things. They are black owned as well. Black owned brands are really good at creating eyeshadows that are going to look awesome on every single skin tone, so awesome formula as well. Whew. And that concludes my top 12 current favorite eyeshadow formulas right now. So I hope you guys enjoyed this updated list of my favorite formulas. It was really fun to put together, and I love just being able to sit down and talk about what I'm super passionate about and what I kind of started my channel based on, which was eyeshadows. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Please let me know down in the comments, did I miss anything? What are some of your favorite formulas? Because I love trying out things that you guys recommend to me. You guys have gotten me to spend my money on some crazy things, but normally you guys recommend some of the best things I've ever tried. So please let me know what are your favorite formulas. But if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed down below, and also make sure you're following me on Instagram to see makeup looks like the ones I flashed on screen throughout this entire video, posted pretty much almost every single day. I'm trying. If you made it to the very end of this video, I love you so, so much. Thank you guys so much for watching this channel. Bye.